Hello, everyone, and welcome to Peaceboat's special event, Around the World with Peaceboat, the next port of call in Latin America. My name is Emily McClone, and I'm working as the director of Peaceboat US in New York City, and I will be your host for today's event. We are so excited to have with us various guest speakers from Latin America, including Akira Uchimura from Chile, Maria Antonia Perez from Colombia, and Ruben Escalante-Hasbun from El Salvador. All of our participants on today's program have traveled on board the Peaceboat, representing Latin America in their own work and also helping us to organize programs in Latin America as the Peaceboat travels through Central, South, and all of the Latin American region. This is a program that is also part of our global fundraising campaign. We've started this campaign in August to help support Peaceboat's cause, to raise awareness and also raise funds for our educational programs. We are doing the global crowdfunding campaign throughout August until the 31st, and then we'll be continuing into the fall with more online programming. So if you can, please do visit our GoFundMe page and also our Facebook Live page to see how to donate and help support our programs. You can see the links here online, and also you can see that we're continuing to raise funds. We raised over $15,000 total now with all of our programs, and every little bit can really help make a difference. So thank you so much for everyone who's donated and for everyone who's watching this program today. And as we're thinking about Latin America today with Peaceboat, I would just like to highlight some of the amazing projects that we've been doing throughout the years. I've had the pleasure of traveling on board the Peaceboat with all of our guest speakers here today, and maybe we can bring them back up to the stage so we can have them also introduce themselves. Our programs that have taken place in Chile have focused around environmental conservation, for example, creating a World Heritage Site in Patagonia with our partners CODEF. We've also worked together with youth from Latin America, bringing on young people from Bolivia, from Cuba, Venezuela, also from Central America. And as Peaceboat travels in Latin America every year, we have various programs taking place both on the ship and also in the ports of call. It's really exciting for us also to be sharing the Spanish language on board. So I actually started out on Peaceboat as a Spanish teacher. And so having the Spanish language and also Latin American culture on board is a large part of Peaceboat's programming as we're traveling through the Latin American region. So let's bring up our guest speakers. I would like to start, first of all, with Ruben Hasbun. Ruben was with us from El Salvador. He lived in Tokyo, and then he also moved to New York City to work here with the United Nations as a permanent representative for the permanent mission of El Salvador to the UN. So he's got a lot of experience and also now based in Europe. So Ruben, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Emily. I'm really happy to be here.
Yes, we're so pleased to have you back. You're such a large part of the Peaceboat family, wherever you are in the world. So I'm really excited just to hear a little bit about, first of all, how did you get involved with Peace Boat, and what was your experience like?
Oh, first of all, I want to say it again that I'm really happy to be part of this initiative, so we can, you know, peace boat it forward, so to speak, in a way of sharing with other people using all this media in these uncertain times. Even though I'm sure that a lot of people have already Zoom fatigue, but it's always nice to use this virtual means to keep the conversation going, even when we are not able to meet together or to be on the boat together. So as you said, I'm originally from El Salvador, which is the smallest country in Latin America. And when I was young and tender, when I was 24, I actually got a scholarship to move to Japan. The reason is really, really simple, and she knows this already. I wanted to get away from my mother as far as possible. I applied for scholarships in Seoul, in Taiwan, and the one in Japan came through. So as I was doing my master's in international politics, I remember walking down the streets of Tokyo one day and just seeing this poster about like a ship with this crazy idea that a ship that goes promoting peace and sustainability. And for anybody that has seen the peace boat posters, they usually have the map like the one that I have behind me, depicting the route that the ship is going to take. And on that particular voyage that poster was advertising, the boat was stopping in El Salvador. So I thought I need to go to that office and just find out what they're doing in my country. So I ended up going, and I ended up getting involved in some of the campaigns. I remember handing out leaflets for some of the Article 9 campaigns back in 2007 or 6. Then I left for a few years, and then I ended up being on the boat 4 times on the voyages 64, 67, 71, and 74 before I moved to back to my government. So as you know, I usually come from a government background. So after Peace Boat, I went back to the Salvadoran government to work as a diplomat, as you said before.
Yes, you had such an interesting career. I mean, moving from Peace Boat as an international NGO, traveling around the world 4 times, you said, on the boat, visiting so many countries, and then using that experience to take it to the United Nations, I think was a really incredible process for you, watching you grow through that period. So this is a photo from your first trip that you were on board?
Yeah. That was one of the first ones, and I remember. So that is me, obviously, the only no nation guy in the picture, and I remember being next to one of the hibakusha, one of the survivors from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and just thinking how lucky I was just to be able to get that firsthand experience from somebody who actually, had to live through the ordeal of the atomic weapons. And coming again to the point of the exposure from Latin America and the Caribbean, which is a region in the world in which, when you study about the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it really sounds like something that is really, really far away, both geographically and also in time. So being able to interact with the survivors and also to organize some of the campaigns that they held in different Latin American ports was basically, I think, one of the highest and most proud moments of my whole Peace Boat experience, and that I actually used later on. We are all very, very aware of the milestone that happened in the UN a couple of years ago when the nuclear ban treaty actually was signed. So this has been like a dream in the civil society community for so long, and afterwards it galvanized this critical mass of member states at the UN. And at the time, I was lucky to be in Geneva, where I am right now, and I was lucky to be in charge of the disarmament portfolio for the government of El Salvador. And I remember that time in which all the passion that
Part of our Peace Boat coordinating team for a lot of events that we organize in Latin America, as well as our youth programs on board. So let's see if we can bring Maria back to the stage.
Hola.
Maria. Hola.
Hola. Hi, Emily. How's it going?
So great to have you here. I'm just so proud of all the amazing work that you're doing now, and it's exciting to have you back in the Peace Boat family. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. It seems like a new journey for all of us. So I'm really happy, as Ruben was saying, to be reconnected and to be together in these events.
Absolutely. So tell us, Maria, you came also to Japan many years ago and had your first experience with Peace Boat, but you had already been in Asia and traveling for so many years. So tell us a little bit about your experience. How did you get involved with Peace Boat for the first time?
Well, the first time I was living in Sri Lanka, actually. I was in Asia, as Emily mentioned, living in Sri Lanka, and I was volunteering in some camps after the tsunami. And suddenly I met an American friend that we have in common, Emily. And this friend told me, oh, you know, there's a boat that travels around the world doing peace education. And at the beginning, I thought she was really joking, because I thought this is like a dream coming true, traveling around the world and volunteering and helping others and learning as well. So then I looked it up and it was real. So I applied. They had, at that time, they had volunteer positions for people to teach English or Spanish. So I applied as a Spanish teacher at that time. It was in 2005. So imagine 15 years ago. Then I applied and I was super lucky to get into. So they accepted me. So I flew from Sri Lanka to Japan. And that was my first voyage. It was the 51st voyage, where I traveled with you, Emily. So it was our first travel, our first trip together. And we traveled around the world for 3 months, which was super exciting, super, super exciting. And at that time, I was a volunteer teacher. And I liked it so much that they asked me to come on board again. So I did it twice. So people cannot believe that, oh, you're going around the world for 2 times. It's like, yep, 2 times. I loved it. I learned so much. We traveled to very different and exotic countries and great ports. And I've learned so much that was an experience that completely changed my mind. So my background is in creativity. I'm a graphic designer. And basically being on board and being like in contact with these kind of people and inspirations, I got really inspired to study peace, and I got really involved in that area. So then 2 times around the world, and then I started working. I became a staff member. So I worked for a few years in Tokyo. And since then, as Emily mentioned, we have worked together, designing, coordinating, and making happen amazing international students programs with different themes. Emily mentioned indigenous, SDGs, leadership, especially in the region of Latin America. So it was incredible for more than 11 years. And I think we travel a lot, Emily, no? Like very interesting people that we met and very enthusiastic youth, no?
Absolutely. I think, Maria, you and I have been coordinating so many programs in Latin America over the years. I think we've reached, thousands of young people through events held in the ports, on board the ship, and also all the young people with the scholarships. So I'm just really excited to hear and show some of the photos also. We have some images, I think, of our first voyages together. Do you want to tell us a little bit about some of these photos here?
These are a long time ago, Emily. You know them, no? So we started doing ALBA cruise ships, like ALBA projects. So we start working with countries from the ALBA project. Then we also had like resilient youth. So we were also working with different agencies from the UN, basically working in different topics. So at that time, it was more than 10 years ago. It was exciting for these youth also to meet other youth from other countries and exchange experiences, exchange learning programs, because it's not just what happens on board. If you think about Peace Boat, it's a global university that travels around the world. It's like a floating university. But at the same time, these youth and these passengers or participants have the opportunity to have the exposure to exchange programs and to talk one-to-one experiences. So for them was incredible. So in the programs normally last for like a week or 10 days, maximum 2 weeks. But it was an incredible bonding between them. Some of them are still like in contact with each other and have projects with each other. So that was the whole purpose of the programs, like creating these links and this network in the region.
It was so incredible. I remember that first voyage when we had our Bolivarian youth program and watching young people working together, like you said, collaborating and building those partnerships and then helping each other, because it's all about also mutual support, right, and cooperation. And if you can build those regional support systems, I think it can really make a positive difference for all of Latin America. So that's great. And this looks like more of an art project here that you're standing in front of. Tell us about, is this a mural that you painted?
Yeah, this was a South project. Remember, it was a very interesting youth program about sustainable energy. So we also invited youth from Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, and different like southern like countries. And it was great because we also visited the Patagonia. So the snow and everything was incredible, but also the awareness that we create in this youth about conservation. So it was the conversations that we had, the exposure and the dialogues that they had with the community. So we did resilient, like recycle art, visiting really cool projects, because what Peaceboat does also in the region is partnership with local organizations. So it's not just about learning from scratch, it's learning from grassroots movements and organizations that have like an incredible experience.
Yeah, I think our programs in Patagonia have continued. We just had one even in 2019. We continue to visit Ushuaia in Argentina. I think the Earthship project that we helped to build with recycled cans and bottles, and using all the materials from the ship to help even build eco-friendly houses. We still visit those projects today. So the legacy continues with our international students program in Latin America. That's great.
And we always like using art, remember this was the mural. So that was 2 years ago. I think it was in Mexico. So I think these volunteer programs also help because they do volunteer work. So we do the beach cleaning in Mexico. We did like an amazing mural about the SDGs, creating awareness in different educational spaces. So it was great. This was 2 years ago in Mexico.
Yes, I think the graduation from kind of the international students program that we had in Latin America, especially around Patagonia region, up to the Youth for the SDGs program, which is the one that's featured here, has really continued with the environmental theme, talking about SDG 13 for climate action and 14 for life below water. And not only did we do this mural painting all about the oceans, but we also did a beach cleanup, right? So the first photo actually was on, I think, the beach in Puerto Vallarta, where we did a volunteer beach cleanup with our local partners and promoted the My World Mexico SDGs themes as we were collaborating with this volunteer group. So that was really exciting. Let's see the next photos.
And I think this is really interesting, Emily, because I think also Peaceboat International Students Program, it's been adjusting to the different themes and the different needs that are changing in the world. So we were talking about MDGs a few years ago, now SDGs, and different issues that are relevant to the moment. I really love the second picture that says Objetivos del Desarrollo Sostenible, which was great because we work with the Cuna community, with an indigenous community in Panama, where we partner and talk to the communities and see how do they understand the SDGs. What is the meaning? What is the way that they see it? And then we did this interpretation and we did beautiful murals, but also a great interpretation about how indigenous understand development. So it was great. It was a great project.
Absolutely. And actually, Wago, who's the community leader of the Cuna indigenous community there in Panama, is going to be speaking with us tomorrow. We have another event, I think, which you're also going to be joining, and that's going to be exciting to hear from him. He's been working with Peaceboat now for more than 15 years as well, and helping the development in a sustainable way for his community. And I think that our art and mural projects have always been an inspiration, especially for the young people in the community who help us get involved. So that's great. And this is also another indigenous community. It looks like this one might be more in Guatemala.
It was a youth empowerment program where we work with different indigenous communities from Guatemala. So there are different groups inside the country, and we wanted to bring them together so they were able to understand each other and to create much more like links. So it was great. We have 3 different groups from the Maya culture, and it was incredible. It was incredible. They traveled from Cartagena, Colombia, all the way to Guatemala, stopping in Panama. So it was a beautiful experience for them. For most of them, it was the first time out of their country. And they learn not just about the other countries' experiences, but they also learn about Asian experiences. They learn about Japanese culture, and they had like different exchanges and cultures like exposure.
Yeah, it's always important. I love learning more about indigenous cultures on the Peaceboat. It's always great to have those speakers or youth on board as we're traveling towards the countries to learn more about them, so that we're a little bit more aware and also just have a chance to delve more deeply into those topics. Since we're visiting each country for 1 or 2 days, we can take advantage of the time on the ship to do a lot of learning. So that's great. And we can go to the next, please. And this one looks like it's back in Japan. You were a volunteer not only on the ship, but also in Tokyo doing disaster relief. And this is your project in Ishinomaki, I believe?
Yeah, so we wanted also to talk about the work that Peaceboat is been doing in humanitarian aid. It's been incredible, and that opened up another door for me in terms of professional work. So it was because of what, I mean, I got involved after the tsunami in Sri Lanka, so I was really already moved by the humanitarian aid that we can do. But then after what happened in Japan in the tsunami in 2011, Peaceboat is really well organizing like volunteers in a proper way. And I want to emphasize in the proper way, because every time people talk about volunteer, they just think about people donating their times. But it's more than that. I think Peaceboat understood that they have to be prepared, that they have to be ready, and that they have to be in the best conditions to be able to help others. So it's great because I learned it, and that was a great inspiration that later on I brought back to Colombia. So it was how we helped in Japan after the tsunami, how we were prepared, how they gave us everything that we needed to volunteer after the tsunami and earthquake in the north of Japan. So it was a great experience, and Peaceboat has been doing it and still doing it in different parts of the world.
Yeah, I think it was really amazing. You were such a central part of the Peaceboat volunteer team from the international division, and also taking that knowledge on board. And like you said, being prepared, helping train youth, because I think we realize that we never have enough volunteers when there's a natural disaster. So actually having volunteers who are already trained and able to lead more groups can then magnify our efforts and help reach more people in a time of great need. And I think the Latin American youth, as well as African youth who've come on board and the youth in Japan, we've really reached so many young people with the Peaceboat disaster relief training. So I'm really happy to see that you're also continuing that even now in your home community. I think some of the skills that you learned during that time have been even useful during this global pandemic. So
yeah, I think Peaceboat, what they did is also like lessons learned. So they also share their experience in different countries. So we share it in Haiti, then in Chile. Then I also brought back that experience, like volunteering, and this is in Haiti actually. So we were kind of exchanging in Haiti after the earthquake, and this is what I brought back to Colombia. So especially now with the COVID, we might talk about it later, but how to organize and how to coordinate. So the programs with the IS or the international students also reinforce and basically train others to be able to manage disaster relief. So it was great how Peaceboat combine the knowledge, the platform, and also the skills, and share their good experiences with the world.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And in Colombia, you've played such a central role, I think, in the community development and organizing. That's definitely some skills I know that on Peaceboat as well, you know, how to reach communities at their homes, how to reach them also with the things that they need, toolkits. I think you made a toolkit, right? A disaster relief kind of toolkit that you are giving out to the communities this year?
It was more a peace and conflict resolution kit. So it was more how in this time of pandemic that we're going to talk later again. But yeah, how we can talk about like conflict transformation in this time of COVID. So how we reach the houses, how we reach the communities, how we move volunteers to do it, and also how art plays a very crucial role right now, especially with the COVID.
Mm-hmm. And tell us about these photos here. Lots of colors and vibrant community activism.
So yeah, you know, as I mentioned before, I'm a designer, but I do believe in the power of tools for transformation, especially for social transformation and education. So we designed a special games for the right of culture and the right of playing. So we designed a special game for the local government in the city of Medellin, which included different books and arts materials that also connected the kids, not just with themselves, but also with their families. So it's about how to co-create with the others and how to reduce and manage the conflict in a more creative way, and also how to reach those places with educational material that create conscious about the use of the face mask and the social distancing and other tools or indications that are important nowadays.
That's great. Okay, and let's go to your last photo, I think, coming up. That involves one of our other guest speakers who's joining us today, Akira. This looks like maybe one of the first voyages that you were on together.
I think Akira can tell you what is this picture about, because it was very interesting. It was a good learning for you, Akira, isn't it?
Yes, it was a 1-day lesson to learn how to dance cumbia, and we did a presentation in front of many people on how to dance one of the many Latin American dances.
Amazing. Everybody, please welcome Akira Uchimura. He is from Chile, but also is, in Japan. So he represents a Nikkei community as well. And as we were mentioning, we have been working on so many programs in Chile, including the conservation of Patagonia, but also many other programs involving youth and raising awareness for education and cultural different programs that we organize in the port of Valparaiso with Akira. So Akira, let's move on to you a little bit about your experience, and then we're going to bring in Maria for the next question.
Okay, thank you, Emily. And nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Akira Uchimura. I'm half Chilean, half Japanese. And my relationship with Peaceboat goes back to 2007. And when I was watching a documentary in a movie theater in Roppongi, which was about the Peace Constitution, a film by director John Junkerman, and where we had all these university students doing a discussion afterwards, and I volunteered to translate. So one of the Peaceboat staff who was organizing the event came to me and asked me, just out of the blue, said, "Hey, would you like to go around the world in 100 days?" And I was like, this girl's going to trick me or something. So I just said no, and nothing happened. And after 2 months, there was this international students gathering for United Nations system, a platform. And then I met this lady, Rika Watanabe, where she was talking about Peaceboat, and then I learned more about the organization and all the things that they do. And the point that really stuck to me was that one of the objects of Peaceboat is to make Earth a lot more peaceful. You need to meet people in person. And to do it, you would take all these 1,000 Japanese people around the world 3 times a year. So that made it very interesting for me. And I decided to go twice as a volunteer translator, then twice as a tour coordinator. And then I've done many different projects with Peaceboat from many things in Chile, but also bringing the ex-president of Uruguay to the ship as well. This is a book that I wrote about his speech in the UN. So yeah, there's a lot of stories that I can talk with you.
Yes, Akira, you have so many incredible experiences. Tell us a little bit about this photo here. I believe this is in the port in Valparaiso, which is one of the oldest ports in all of Latin America and one of the most important ports in Chile. So I also, studied abroad in Chile, and I have such a love for Valparaiso, the history and the culture and the people. I think it's a really a major highlight of Peaceboat every time that we travel to South America. And you were one of the biggest organizers of this festival for Japan and Chile. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved in organizing this festival and how it kind of grew also.
Yes, so as many of you may know, I'm a party person. I like people, I like festivals. So one of my Peaceboat friends, Leo, who was in charge of the port of Valparaiso for all the tour organizations, asked me if I would like to do something interesting in Valparaiso. And I said, we organized one friendship tour, bringing together Japanese learning students from Chile and Japanese people. But we said we could do something else, something more that more people could come together and learn about each other. So we started making these a Japanese festival called Japan Valparaiso Festival. So we do it every time that Peaceboat comes to Valparaiso. We've already done it 3 times, sorry. And the most we've gathered was about 3,500 people in the port. So we would do a festival where we would share Chilean culture, dances, songs, and also Japanese culture, dances, and songs prepared by the passengers of the ship.
I think we have a few images of those dances and songs as well. It was pretty incredible last time we were in Chile to see so many people dressed up in traditional clothing, performing and also really taking part in these activities, both, like you said, from the Peace Boat side, but also the local community in Chile, people that had been learning taiko, people that were learning how to wear kimonos. But tell us about those community groups as well.
Yes, here, the second photo, this photo is of the passengers playing taiko in front of everyone. And the one before that is of the Chilean Taiko Center, where these are Chilean people who've been learning taiko from a Japanese sensei who emigrated to Chile. And these taikos are made by them as well. So it's a very nice platform, this festival, to for all the different Japanese organizations or artistic groups to show what they have. It's all from traditional Japanese music to even cosplayers as well doing their shows. So it's a very diverse and fun event that we do once a year or once every 2 years when Peace Boat comes.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see here, we have other passengers singing different songs where they would prepare on the ship before come to Chile. They would sing traditional Chilean songs as well, Japanese songs. And it's a very, this is almost like the end of the festival where we kind of sing together. And it's a very harmonizing event.
Absolutely. And I think we have a couple images as well, even in the town of Valparaiso. Tell us about this image here.
What we do here is Valparaiso is, as you say, one of the oldest ports in Latin America, and it has many historical sites that are really nice. It's a very touristy place as well, but the interesting parts of Valparaiso are with the real people who live there. So what we did was we made groups of 8 people, 4 Japanese passengers and 4 Chileans who also happen to live in Valparaiso and learn Japanese in our Japanese classes in the Nikkei Valparaiso Corporation. And they would use their Japanese to teach them about the interesting places or places which you would normally not visit in Valparaiso as a tourist, but like the real Valparaiso. So it's a very fun, interesting experience, and at the end, they become really good friends and stay connected afterwards. So it's a very nice event that everybody's waiting every year.
I know. I think it's so much fun watching people go around Valparaiso, exploring all the murals on the streets, the historic buildings, taking the ascensor, the elevators that go up the hills, and also enjoying the food and culture of Chile. Chile is also very well known for its seafood, its wine, and delicious cuisine. So I think people really enjoyed, even a short time in Chile, Valparaiso had so much to share. So that was great. And I think we have a couple more slides left that I want to go ahead and share. Tell us about this. One looks like a quite important program here with Jigshow.
Yes, there's one project that we're very thankful as a Japanese community here in Valparaiso, is that through Peace Boat, they brought us a donation of 4,500 manga books from the Kyoto Manga Museum, where we received this donation, and we built a manga library with the collaboration of the Chilean Japanese Chamber of Commerce, the Japanese Embassy, and the National Chilean Garden Park that's here in Valparaiso as well. So it has become the first manga library in Valparaiso, in Chile. So you could see the next slide. And this is the manga library itself, and it's situated in the middle of the national park in Chile, where outside of this is all these beautiful gardens, and then you come to this place where in the middle we teach origami or Japanese classes sometimes, and then we also everybody can come here freely to read manga. Of course, there's people who can read Japanese, and there's also people who cannot read, but they come here, and mostly artists who come and study the art of manga and how to write them.
It's so incredible. What a great resource for Chile as a country, but also for all of, the people who are interested, as you say, the artists and those who are studying Japanese, or even Japanese young people living in South America, to be able to have this library as a resource and also to share the art and culture of Japan. I think it's really amazing that you were able to create that. So I'm happy that Peaceboat was also able to contribute a little bit through the books and awareness raising and also just collaboration. That's great. Akira, it's so wonderful to have you on the show with us today, because we just, saw each other recently in Chile when we were there in Valparaiso for the most recent festival that you hosted. I just was going to say, what was probably one of the highlights for you of this last visit of Peaceboat, the most recent one in 2019? I think it was in February.
What surprised me is that in the beginning, it was just people from Valparaiso who came to the event. But when I started asking, where did you come from as an MC in the event, there were people who came from the south of Chile, from Santiago, from all over Chile to see this event. And they would thank us later, saying that they really felt this connection to Japan. There's a lot of people in Chile who really respect and see the values of Japanese culture as something that really connects with them. Chile is one of the farthest countries from Japan, but through Peaceboat, through these voyages, you can connect directly with these Japanese people. So that was very enriching for me. And on the last event, I forgot to put a photo, but I did a huge calligraphy shuji. It's called a painting of the letters in Japanese of peace. And then everybody else put paint on their hands and put like their hands around it. So it became a really nice place for artistic expression and celebration of this friendship. So I'm really hoping we can expect you here again.
Yes, me too. I really look forward to going back to Chile very soon. So we'll have to start planning for 2021, for next year.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Akira. I want to bring back now our other guest speakers and have all three of you here for some follow-up questions and just to discuss a little bit more. We have Ruben back with us and Maria. So all of you, thinking about Latin America, and it's such a diverse place. I mean, even the three of you are so diverse in your work, culture, and experiences. When you joined the Peaceboat for the first time, what was some of the things that you wanted to share about Latin America during those voyages? And maybe we can start with Ruben and then go to Maria and Akira.
All right. First of all, I'm sorry for getting cut off. Like even in Switzerland, you can have bad connectivity issues. So I remember, well, first of all, the thing that struck me the most was the way how Peaceboat does travel, right? And it's the mantra that we keep repeating, that it's like person to person. And at the end of the day, I think that is the beauty of the Peaceboat experience. You go to a place and it's not just about going to the beach or just having that selfie taken. It's about trying to understand what the people who live there go through and trying to understand how, even though we may speak different languages and live in different continents, there are so many things that we share in terms of not only global challenges, but also at the personal level, right? So as a Salvadoran, I remember I was really looking forward, which I did as well, to obviously introducing my own country to the participants. At the time when I was on the boat, it was mostly Japanese participants, not as diverse, so to speak, as the voyages that we have lately. But obviously, being El Salvador, a small country, I know that for a lot of the Japanese participants, I was the first Salvadoran that they will probably meet. So just trying to make that first impression, because they will judge the country based on the impressions that I will be making. And then the other idea that I had always when I was on the boat is trying to make people understand how complicated Latin American can be. We Latinos, we tend to be known. There's the stereotype of Latinos being like overly affectionate and joyful and shrugging everything off and salsa and merengue and dancing and la la la, which to a high degree is totally true. But at the same time, there are so many issues, structural problems that we are dealing with that it's very nice when we try to, like break through that Shakira, Ricky Martin image that the rest of the world tend to have of Latin America as a whole, and try to show to people how diverse we can be, even when we, yes, may speak one or two languages, but each specific country has their own specific challenges, foods, ways of seeing life, ways of dancing, particular problems they're facing. And Peacebot also makes that point of, because of the voyages and the way how the routes are designed, you usually have to go at least to one port, north and south. So just seeing the contrast between how people may live in the Caribbean as opposed to Patagonia, and then you go to Easter Island, then that gives people a little bit of a flavor that probably they were not expecting to have.
It's so true. I think, by visiting these very diverse countries, you can see how Latin America has so many different cultures and even languages, especially around the indigenous cultures that we mentioned, and customs and traditions, and of course cuisine and history. So it's so unique. And Maria, how about being from Colombia? You have so much to share from Colombia. Always, organizing a lot of events on board about music, art, history. Tell us what did you want to share on the Peace Boat when you first joined?
I think at the beginning when I joined, I wanted to learn, I think, the happiness and the expressions that Latinos are normally are. Yeah, we're very expressive, we're colorful. I was always wearing too much color, or I was always moving too much or hugging too much. But I guess that was a very incredible experience because I also experienced the Japanese or the Asian side in a very different way. So I learned about the silence, I learned about the distance, and I learned something beautiful about the Asian cultures in general is about the importance of rituals, which is not that common in Latin America, but for Asian cultures, rituals are important. I mean, the way Asians eat, the way Asians pray or connect to the nature or connect to each other, it was beautiful for me. So it was great to see this combination. It was kind of like opposite sides of the planet, but how beautiful this combination is. I mean, for example, my first voyage trying to teach salsa, imagine trying to teach salsa or Shakira movements to a Japanese person. It was incredible because they were very rational and we are very emotional. So it was incredible because I did a little like experiment. It's like, okay, don't look at each other, just close your eyes. And it was great because it was a way of feeling the music. And Japanese and Asians are they follow the rules and they're very committed and they're very good hearted. So it was great also to see these combinations, not just on board, but also in the ports. And also, as we mentioned before, not just for the Asian, but I think bringing the Latin American cultures together was a great successful and a great experience for me because, as I said before, not many of these youth that participating in our programs had the chance before to talk to other cultures that even speak their own language. So it's great to bring people from, I don't know, Argentina and Peru or Panama and Guatemala. When they say, okay, yeah, we can talk to each other, we can use the same language, but we have different expressions. No, we have this word can mean different things depending on the culture, and we eat different things. So it was incredible, even in between the same continent, how diverse our own culture is. So it was beautiful to see that interaction on board.
Well, I think you definitely brought a lot of life, a lot of color, and a lot of dancing to the Peace Boat. I remember all the Latin nights and all the shows you would do and the festivals in Venezuela and the port. So many amazing events that you organized, and I think your color really filled all of those moments of Peace Boat for everyone who was in Latin America remembers that. So that's so great. And Akira, how about you? What's some of the things? I mean, you have such a double culture, with the Japanese side and also the Chilean side. In bridging that, you've played an amazing role as an interpreter on board. But what are some of the things that you personally also wanted to bring to Peace Boat?
Well, being a communication coordinator or a translator in Peace Boat, it was a very enriching experience for me because since I was born, being my mother Chilean and my father Japanese, I've always been in the middle of these two cultures, and the job that I was doing on the ship and on each port was exactly that, bridging the cultures and communication between Japanese people and Latin American people. And so when I boarded the first time and the second time, I had two missions that I wanted to do on the ship. One was to really make Japanese people understand the feelings and emotions and music and dances that Latin American people have, and the other way around as well, making Latin American people understand the values or the spirituality of the Japanese, and breaking all these different stereotypes as well. And the other part is to show them that there are Latin American people who look like Ruben, who look like Maria, and also who look like me, who there's a big Japanese descendants communities all around Latin America, the biggest in Brazil, and to show them that there's this really interesting mix of cultures with Japanese origins in different countries. So that was very special for me to teach them about that history, which is very similar to what Peace Boat is doing, because many Japanese who emigrated to Latin America came on these cruise ships and also immigration ships.
It's so true. We had, such a large number of people that actually, like you said, did move from Japan to Brazil in particular, but also Peru and Chile and all over South America. And then also a lot of the Latinos who came to Japan and also settled there, right? So there's a lot of Nikkei community. And I think you were really central in bringing that to Peace Boat. We hadn't maybe had as many programs until you joined Peace Boat and really started to help organize bringing Nikkei Youth on board and creating those opportunities. It's such a great cultural exchange. And I think, like you said, Peace Boat being a ship is a perfect place to have those interactions. So that's great. And what about thinking about today and how you're using your experiences from Peace Boat in your current work, and how maybe you've developed even some extra skills, throughout your voyages, and then thinking about the current global crisis as well, this pandemic, how it has really changed the landscape of what we're looking at for peace building, cultural awareness, connecting. Everything is moving online and so many different challenges that we're facing. And people are really talking about this current crisis being a turning point and a way that we can build back better. So what do you think we can learn as a society, sharing from your experiences, also your current work, on how we can really build back better together with all of Latin America, but also all of society as a whole? Maybe we can start with Ruben.
Well, you were throwing a lot of questions, so I'm just gonna pick two of them. How the kind of skills that Peace Boat has given me, as you know, I continue to be in this UN related. I'm not a diplomat anymore, but I work for one of the UN agencies, and I think number one is the passion. Because working for Peace Boat, you need to have passion in what you do. You need to live it. You need to breathe it. You need to drink it and go to bed with it every single day. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. And then the capacity to empathize with other people. And I remember the last time that I met somebody from Samoa, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm from El Salvador. I've been to Samoa, and thanks to Peace Boat." And then it's instantly an icebreaker of such a big dimension that so many people just fall in love with you just by the fact that you can tell them that you have been to the country. So that has helped me in so many ways, and that is something that I'm always going to be thankful for to Peace Boat. And when it comes to building back better, a crisis, either at the global level or at the personal level, can be taken as a reason to just get depressed, or as a reason to identify things and take action. And building back better, again, going back to Japan, that is a concept that has been developing. It's part of the Sendai Framework for Action for Disaster Risk Reduction, which also includes pandemics. And in the case of Latin America, and probably my colleagues will agree with how much COVID has laid bare all the structural deficiencies in Latin America, and beginning with the health systems. So it has exposed a lot of deficiencies in investment, in infrastructure, in the way how we look after the elderly, in the way how the balance between private healthcare, and public investment has to be more balanced. And I really hope that the governments and civil society will also be taking this as an inspiration. And Peace Boat has a new role, which is, first of all, after the pandemic, everybody will be shy to how to have the kind of direct interaction that we used to have before. So we need to, little by little, as we come out of the pandemic, make sure that Peace Boat is there and continues to offer that bridge that has been broken. A lot of people have been in quarantine for so many days and so many months. And I think like people will be striving for this kind of direct human contact, not only with your neighbor, but also with other cultures and other countries. And that is the niche of Peace Boat. And I do believe there's like a big work and a big task just waiting for Peace Boat to keep up the good work.
Thank you, Ruben. And yes, you made a really good point, looking at disaster risk reduction and Peace Boat's work with PVV, the Peace Boat Volunteer Center, and how we learn from that, including those conferences in Sendai and all of the international work that came out of that, the guiding information that we can now use during this global pandemic. It's a really great experience to take that into this current situation. And that can bring me back to Maria, because she was also there during a lot of those conferences for disaster risk reduction and relief work. And so Maria, tell us, what do you think? How can we work to build back better together?
Well, I think there are 2 points that you were asking before, is what we have learned as individuals first. So I think Peace Boat also taught us how to adjust to change. On Peace Boat, we were always adjusting to change and solving all the problems on the way. And it was great because I also learned from the Japanese and also from the Peace Boat people team is about how to be resilient. So it was something I've learned, and I've been using it a lot these days, like incredibly. I feel more resilient after working for Peace Boat, definitely, after learning from what Japan has going through in terms of war, in terms of disaster. I mean, one of the things that I've learned the most was working with the survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and also with victims from the tsunami. So I think I bring back that experience. And as you were saying before, in Build Back Better, there are like 3 components, no? So the risk reduction, which is completely new for all the world right now. We talk about pandemics, and we talked about the Sendai conference about pandemics, but no one ever imagined a pandemic like this. So for me, this is actually interesting to see how the world, for the first time, is united in one issue. This is the only thing that has affected the whole country, the whole world, in the same way. It doesn't matter the country, it doesn't matter the language, it doesn't matter the culture. We've been all affected. So that brings us together. So it's kind of like, this is the way we build back better. We build back better together. In terms of risk reduction, there's a lot of prevention that we can do. We've learned a lot about this. But I think I want to emphasize in the second point of Build Back Better, which is community recovery. And in the community recovery, there are 2 components, the social and the economic recovery. And I think peace, and especially us working in the communities, we have a huge responsibility, because there's going to come like a more stressful period, which is going to be the mental health. And I think peace more than ever is going to be important, because we know that there's problems of tolerance, depression, and mental health. I think more than ever, this Build Back Better needs to focus much more in this social recovery. And I think in the third point is the implementation or the regulation. I think the world is understanding new norms and new regulations, other ways of monitoring and evaluating. So the world itself is learning. But what is interesting is, for the first time, we're all learning from the same issue and at the same time, which is really interesting. I mean, we're learning from each other's experiences, especially because this pandemic hits by kind of continent. So it's interesting how the world is actually exchanging. So I think we build back better together, and we build back better by sharing those experiences. So I think that's the word I take out of all of this, is resilience and working together, definitely.
Thank you, Maria. Very good word to remember, resilience. And I agree that we are all becoming more resilient during this time. And it does have a lot to say about our work with Peace Boat and experiences, and how to maintain during difficult times and challenges, and how to overcome them in a positive way. So thank you for that. And Akira, how about you?
Yes, it's a little similar to Maria, but going on this ship and having 20, 30 events per day and then having the waves and having the hurricanes and having all these things happening at the same time makes you be adaptive. What I learned in my 4 trips around Peace Boat is that you can adapt to almost anything as long as you don't die. You can adapt and think of ways to go forward. And if you think of it, a Peace Boat is a ship where you're at the sea. You're encapsulated in this place. So right now we cannot really meet each other, but we are in a situation where we can, since we aren't going out and doing things, and we're doing things at home. I think this period was a time to rethink stuff that's happening. Now that I've been in quarantine here in Chile for 3 months, and technically without going out for almost a month, at the beginning it's very stressful, but then you start thanking for the good things that you've been having, and also thinking about what in a new way of what you can do next. So yeah, this is a global problem, but it's something that gives us a chance to think differently. And I kind of take that, and I think that helps us to come back better.
Absolutely. And Akira, you've always been really great with social innovation and, creating new opportunities and new ideas. I think actually everyone on this call has really put that to the test in all of your work and finding new possibilities maybe where there were none before. So that's really great. And also with one last closing message, just because we're about to wrap up our conversation today, for all of the Latin American youth, for all of our partners that are listening, do you have one last message just about Peace Boat, some encouraging words to build back better or just to continue our work? Ruben, you want to give your last message?
COVID related would be social distance is not the same as physical distance. We're keeping physical distance, not social distance. Don't get away from people, be sympathetic, and reach out, because we need to be together to build back better.
Absolutely. Maria?
Well, I think Peace Boat mission is to connect people. And even without the ship sailing, it's still connecting people. So it brought us together. We haven't seen each other in years, but it's beautiful how the mission continues. And I think these events and what we're doing now as a campaign is support Peace Boat. It's also a campaign to continue doing this, to continue connecting us. So I think my message is support Peace Boat, connect to Peace Boat, and be part of Peace Boat. To be part of Peace Boat, you don't need to be staff, but you can be a volunteer, you can be a guest speaker. There's so many ways. So I always said that Peace Boat is not a ship that travels around the world. It's a family, but it's also a movement. So my invitation is to be part of this movement and support a project that right now matters to me and to many others in an incredible way, because what it has done and what it can do in the future.
Thank you. And Akira?
Well, I'm out of words because I'm always the third one. But what I can say is that the feeling that I had when I just joined Peace Boat as a translator and then doing all these different projects is that there's always a little bit of fear, but a little bit of how could you say, a good fear, where it made me do things that scare me, and doing that made me progress more. So I think right now everybody's scared, but it's a little scary, but it's challenges you to do new things. And I think Peace Boat is a perfect platform to start thinking differently, or start thinking in things that you would be a little bit scared of doing, but you can do it. And it has been showing it once and over and over again. So I just want to thank you for inviting me here. And I want to invite everybody that doesn't know Peace Boat and is a little bit scared of Peace Boat to kind of take a look, have a taste.
Thank you so much, everyone. I think it's really inspiring just to have you all back again, to see the work that you've continued to do, and to really just reminisce a little bit about the amazing times that we've all had together in Latin America, in Japan, and on board the ship. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to let our speakers go. We're going to wrap up with a few closing words. Thank you. Bye, Maria. Bye, Ruben. All right, everyone. This is not the end of our global campaign. So thank you for tuning in today. And please continue to watch Peace Boat's Support Peace Boat channel. We have our Facebook page as well as our GoFundMe page with many updates for our upcoming events. Tomorrow, you will get to see Maria Perez back on stage again as a moderator for a Spanish language event. This is going to be Around the World with Peace Boat in Latin America, spoken in Spanish. We'll be having guest speakers from the Latin American region talking about their important work and some of the experiences that they had on board. We also have a couple of other events coming up. We have our Journey with Hibaksha, the role of survivors in banning nuclear weapons, coming up on August 26th, Wednesday. We have an amazing lineup here, including survivors from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, along with members from ICAN, the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons. And we hope that you can also join us on Wednesday. And then on Thursday this week, August 27th from 8 p.m., we'll be talking about music and art for social change. We'll be having guest speakers like DJ Spooky, Pierre Bucci, Dragon or Satoshi Fujita, and Michael Tello joining us, talking about music and their experiences on board the Peace Boat, the creations they've done, and how we can use music and art for a positive social change. So thank you so much to everyone who's joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming events. And please donate online if you can. Every little bit can help make a difference for us to continue our programs. Thank you so much.